Dear students, Chisquare Test may be used in order to achieve various objectives. You have learned that how to apply the Chisquare Test to assess the independence or association between the two categorical variables. Dear students, the Chisquare Test may also be taken to test the homogeneity among the proportions for each row. So for that purpose, I would be teaching you that how to take up the problem and for that very problem, how to perform the test of homogeneity using the Chisquare Test. So students, Chisquare Test, as you are aware of the fact that it is a non-parametric test. And for that non-parametric test, we can use Chisquare for multi-purposes. You have already learned that how we can make use of the Chisquare test to test the association between two types of variables that were categorical in nature. So students, अब आप लर्न करने जा रहे हैं कि किस तरह से हम Chisquare को यूज कर सकते हैं in order to test the homogeneity between the population proportion row wise. So अगर आपके पास contingency table में row में और column में different categories given है, तो आपका purpose ये है कि in each row whether the population proportions are identical or they are different from each other. So for that matter, we will make use of the Chisquare test to test that homogeneity of proportions within rows. Now students, whenever we apply a statistical test, we will have to see that what kind of assumptions we would have to observe under our data to perform that statistical test. So students, Chisquare test of homogeneity की assumptions almost they are the same as that of the Chisquare test of independence. Your sample must be a random sample. So अगर आपने random sampling के through अपना sample generate किया है population में से, then your sample will be a random sample. And as far as the sample size is concerned, it has to be at least 5. And the last assumption, students, says that each expected frequency that must be at least 5. Because अगर आपका at least 5 का number नहीं आता expected frequencies में students, तो आपके Chisquare test के results will not be that reliable. So in order to follow the Chisquare test of homogeneity, your expected counts must be at least 5. That means greater than equals to 5. And now students, whenever you perform certain statistical tests, तो आप उसके test or hypothesis के लिए different steps design करते हैं. As far as the test of homogeneity, that is Chisquare is concerned, so Chisquare test of homogeneity के लिए भी we will be following certain testing steps. Step number 1 is to define the H0 and H1, where H0 is the null hypothesis and H1 is the alternative to that hypothesis. H0 is stated as population proportions within each row are same or identical. Whereas H1, that is the alternative hypothesis, it is stated as population proportions within each row, they are not equal. That means they are different from each other. The next step is to define alpha, that is the level of significance. The third step is the test statistics. So again students, in order to test the homogeneity of proportions within the row, we will be following the Chisquare test, where you know that OI is the observed count and EI is the expected count. Then step number 5 is the critical region, where you would have to define the criterion to accept or reject your null hypothesis, that is H0. So here you would specify that we'll have to reject H0 if our Chisquare calculated that you will obtain from step number 4, it is greater than Chisquare tabulated. और वो student कैसे आएगा आपके पास? you will be requiring alpha, the probability, R minus 1, C minus 1, where R stands for the number of rows of contingency table and C stands for number of columns of a contingency table. And in the last step, you will have to conclude your results on the basis of the observed chi-square and the tabulated chi-square.